one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start out tonight's workshop with a presentation from representatives from the Wendell Company. Sean, if you're on, if you'd like to introduce the two gentlemen, and I see they're on Zoom here tonight.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Thanks for having us tonight. I have Brian Sabiga as the head engineer for Wendell. Jeff Telecki is with him. He's been the project engineer, helping us right along with the project. And Brian was going to go over, he's going to have a summary of what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'll leave that with Brian, and I thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just wanted to give you guys an update of where the capital improvement project is, and also kind of verify a next step. As most of you, I think, are already aware, the village did receive WIA grant funding for a project that is making the wastewater plant more efficient and improving some older equipment. And as part of that, they actually got a 0% loan and some hardship financing that basically freed up some dollars to do some more badly needed improvements. And what it was a bond resolution was passed increasing the amount of the project to allow that additional funds to be used, because the bond resolutions obviously got to match the work that you're doing. And the fact that the interest rate was zero meant you're paying less money in interest to actually complete the work. As part of that, some additional work's already been performed, upgrading some more filters and modernizing the filter controls. But we just wanted to kind of take the step and just verify with the board that everyone was still in agreement to use the remaining funds that were in that bond resolution that was passed to complete some more needed work at the wastewater plant. Some things that are being considered for that work are doing some repairs and replacements to the influent screw pumps, to be modernizing the electrical system and the headworks. There's quite a few areas that have been identified by the power company and by OSHA as being problematic. And then lastly, potentially looking at some grit classifier work. So what we're looking for is confirmation from the board that they do want to utilize those dollars that were in the bond resolution that was passed to do some more of these needed improvements. The next step is for Wendell and the Village of Municipal Solutions just to confirm that with EFC and get those dollars made available to do this work. So we wanted to make sure we were asking for more, getting more approval than may even be legally needed, just to make sure everyone was aware of the work that is proposed to be done for this bond resolution that was previously approved.
What was the original amount, Alyssa, of the capital improvement project?
I'm sorry, could you repeat yourself?
What was the original amount of the capital improvement project?
Yes, it was approximately 5.1 million, and it went up to 6.18.
It was 5.1 million, and then with the bond resolution, the additional one, it went up to 6.18
million. And what it was the original resolution, the original project had financing costs. It wasn't a 0% loan. So your out-of-pocket cost was actually closer to 6.8 million. So the determination was made, let's use a little bit of that money we're going to save to get some more work done. Because you aren't paying any interest. You got a 0% interest loan, and they waived all financing costs. There's usually an issuance charge that's 3% that was waived. So there was savings twofold. So the decision was made that the approach to go forward would be to use some of that money to do some more work, and then some of the money was just not saved, I guess you'd say, is not going to be spent.
So out of the original 5.1 million, what work has already been completed?
Actually, all that work has been completed and authorized, and actually where there was some additional work beyond the 5.1 that was already authorized and has been completed. I think the actual total is there's been about $5.4 million worth of work completed.
So the remaining money.
So
go ahead.
The question is, does the village want to true up to the work that's been authorized, or does the village want to use the entire amount of that bond resolution?
Well, how much remains?
There is about $850,000 left.
And of the work that you just listed, the pump, the modernization, the brick classified work, how much of that work will take up the $850,000?
The $850,000 would be the influence screw pump, would be the electrical work in the headworks, and there may be a little bit of minor work or minor dollars available to do maybe one other thing from that list of projects that are needed. So all that money, there is more I guess to summarize it, there is many more projects that are high priority and critical needs than there are dollars available. And that's one of the things Sean can verify. Do you want to kind of give your input there, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned that the influence screw pumps, the main pumps, they're old. We're going to have to look at them for sure. The grit classifier, I mentioned that before, and you know that needs to be replaced. We only got one speed on that machine now, and it was a variable, an adjustable speed on that machine, but now we're just running it. And the pumps that go along with it, and in the collection system, the sweeps and all that, and the drives, and then of course we were talking about the final tanks too with the sweeps and that. So, the list goes on, but like Brian said, there's more projects to be done than there's enough funding for. So we want to just hit some things that are really, I think are important. So, and of course we go through the board for the approval, obviously. Thank you.
Sean, you believe that these three items are the most important things to address at the plant right now?
Well, we have a punch list established, yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, you're looking at the screw pumps, you're looking at the grit removal, and then you're looking at your final tanks.
And we're not saying you have to finalize your list for the money. What we're just asking is for the process to go through and get EFC to put that money aside for the village. That's the part we're looking for now. There's the opportunity to change the list, but right now we need to make sure that EFC puts that money aside for the village.
so the 7 things that are on the critical list, you're addressing the top 3, or the electrical thing is 4. So
Yep. There's more than one electrical issue at the plant. There is the electrical issues at the headworks building, but in addition, the main electrical service of the plant is also bad, and that is another high priority item. So the issue is there's more things that are problematic than there is money available. But this kind of ties into the second thing. Currently, the WIA grant program is out, which is what the village used to do a combination of obtaining grant funding and 0% loan for this first phase. If the board did desire, a second application could be prepared and submitted to do some more of these things on the list. And it's a combination of grant funding, which is 25%, but then the second part that's just as important is the 0% loan, which the village already had the income survey done, which allowed them to get a 0% loan on the first part. And that same income survey could be used to potentially get 0% loan and no issuance fees for additional work if you did want to go through and do more of these 7 improvements that are needed. It's obviously the board's decision if they want to. This program does typically come up every year. It didn't come up last year due to COVID. But it traditionally is an annual program where if you didn't do it this year, doesn't mean you'd miss on being able to do it.
if we did the rest of the list that needed to be done, how much more money are we looking at?
A lot more.
That's something that's likely several $1 million. We'd have to go through and actually detail out and finalize the pricing. But in general, it's probably $2 to $3 million, but we'd have to finalize that amount for the grant program submittal. The submittal does require an engineering report that we've not started the details of the engineer's report. We have some preliminary evaluation of the measures from discussing them with Chief Operator Rayner. And we do have some budgetary numbers, but that isn't finalized to give you a final number. And it's a case where we'd likely go through and work through the priority list if there was a financial limit to what the village was comfortable in borrowing, and we'd basically reduce it down to that amount. But the issue here is many of these items are pretty high priority and critical, where it may be a case where you're only going to have maybe a couple years, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, till the equipment will need to be done no matter what. And the problem is if you do get a failure and it's an emergency situation, you're not going to likely have grant funding for it. You're going to be paying for it 100% yourself. So it's kind of balancing what can you afford financially to do with your financial models and get done off the list when the grant programs are available, and what can you not afford, and you've got to, I guess, keep your fingers crossed or hope you can keep the existing equipment going long enough till you can afford to do it. So understanding these aren't easy decisions, and it's not, obviously, if you had piles of money just sitting there, you would say go ahead and do all of it. So it's how to weigh the risk and the exposure of having some equipment that is both old, inefficient, and probably on the doorstep of failure.
Who wrote the original grant?
Wendell did work with the original grant with the village.
And
It was either probably Travis or Nate, I would assume.
Travis or Nate Aldridge are here?
Yep.
When did that grant originate?
2019.
The great original, yep, 2019.
Nate. Does any other board members have any questions other than? Well, Sean, I can tell you right now, I am going to be having some preliminary discussions with Travis Gordon, our economic development guy, to find out what grant opportunities are out there and the deadlines for those. And then I'd like to sit down with the department heads, and I'd like to have the department heads and everybody sit down with the Board of Trustees and discuss further grant opportunities for projects, especially like this here, that could be opportunities for us here in the near future. So that's something on my purview to be, I guess, zeroing in on for projects like this. So thank you.
Okay.
I guess for the grant program, just to be aware, the WIA one we're talking about is due November 22nd of this year. And it does include a bond resolution. So it's something where the clock is definitely ticking on that. And if the village decides it's just too tight timing wise, the state did a very quick turnaround. It's something that likely could wait till next year.
Okay.
And then the other thing on using the dollars that are in the current bond resolution that the village already passed, that's just something something's going to need to be done because there's more work authorized than the current EFC amount. So that's one that, just looking for direction, does the board want to update it just based on the current authorized work that they've awarded, or do they want to authorize it to have additional projects brought to them to potentially spend the entire bond amount? You would approve each individual project that was brought to you within that $6.18 million.
And there's $850,000 left.
Yep.
Roughly, yep.
Which will do 3 or 4 of those.
A couple of them, yep. Yeah, depending if you pick larger ones or smaller ones. And like for the pumps, how many pumps do you replace?
The bond resolution is already done.
Right, yes.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we do it?
There's no reason why you really shouldn't at this point.
Right. Zero.
That's our thought, but ultimately, you guys are the stewards for the village, and we want to be respectful of that.
How much would that increase our
Debt service?
debt service on that?
If we used all of it, yeah.
If we used all of it, correct.
And the other thing you're seeing with quite a few of these improvements is like the savings over the 30-year repayment period is 8.6 million. So just from what you're currently seeing for maintenance and you have inefficiencies, you're actually, every year you go by not doing it, you're actually spending more money than what it costs to fix them. So that's the interesting thing is the combination of the maintenance on the existing old antiquated systems as well as the inefficiency is actually costing you more than the repayment on an annual basis for the new equipment, and the delta is rather substantial.
Is that
about $700,000 a year?
Is that number based on the all of those 7 items being finished though? Or is
No, that number is actually based on the work you've already done plus the influence screw pump.
Okay.
And the grid system. It's not based on all 7.
Okay, so up to that $6,180,000. That's how much we would be saving over that period of time. So should we do all of these?
Right.
Up
If
to
you did
that
all
amount.
7, you're going to be saving even more because
Oh, I
several
see.
of them aren't even included in there.
Gotcha. That's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah. That was what I was saying is sorry I missed that. Quite a few of them are not included in there. It's mostly the original project and then the grid and the classifier, the grid classifier and the influence pump station.
Okay. How we doing, Alyssa?
I can't imagine it would be at critical levels at this point, but it still would be more.
It would be more. I mean, I know. I mean, that department is in fairly good shape. So that's I think that we, if it's going up to that amount, and then actually that does save us money over that period of time, and we're not paying any interest and fees. I mean, that just makes sense that it's actually becomes a savings.
Yes.
Oh, the grant amount. The grant amount was 5.1,
Right.
and we borrowed another 1.
3.8.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
at 0% interest. We're not paying the grant back.
Right.
Right, so because we kind of figured out what you're saving by not paying interest on the 5.1, and it ended up coming to a number that was greater than the 6.2 million for round numbers. It ended up being that you'd actually be paying more when you had, say, a 3.5% interest rate on the $5.1 million project.
Right.
Nothing wants to let me do 0%.
That kind of put you on the spot, Alyssa. We could
Yeah.
probably do that tomorrow and get that back to us, but isn't it your recommendation that we would,
I would suggest moving forward with what we've already
right,
agreed to and already had the
And-
resolution for.
the
I mean,
850?
just roughly figuring it out in my head, I mean, it makes sense
Yeah,
that we do this, move forward. And get,
with the
and just go up to
recommendations, that with the 3 recommendations that they are, the screw pumps, the modernization of the filter, and the headworks for the electrical upgrades, with those 3 things.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they're recommending, so
Yeah.
of course, that's what I would
And
go with.
Sean, you're in agreement with those 3 things, once again. Sean?
I'm looking to, we had already done the filter control, so that's already eliminated. So it would be like Brian said, it's probably gonna be the screw pump and the classifier.
Oh, and the grid, okay, so you get the screw, was
Okay.
the headworks electrical upgrades done already too? No.
Well, that's what we gotta decide. We may have to make a selection between the headworks, electrical, improvements, or the grid classifier.
Sean, which one of those 2 would you prefer then?
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to have Wendell help me weigh that out, because, obviously if the electric is an issue, we're gonna have to do that first before we do the grit classifier.
And
So
that,
it'd probably be the electric first.
and that will
And we
be,
don't need to make that decision tonight. You can kind of say that, and even that can be brought to the board once we finalize the recommendation on that. Not looking to exclude the board, but just how to spend the money doesn't necessarily have to be finalized today, knowing that you're going to approve any of the projects that are done.
And things can change. I mean,
oh,
Yeah, if something blows up tomorrow, that may change how you're going to spend the 800,000 right around.
exactly.
it makes,
Well,
Right.
as I look at this letter that was written to us yesterday, and it says that there, an additional 855,000 in additional funding was created for additional improvements. And those 3 improvements included the screw pumps, the modernization of filter controls, and the headworks building electrical grade. So
Yep.
of those 3 are covered by the $850,000, right?
but they already did the filter controls. So was that already,
I was still on a change order.
Okay, so B has been done.
right?
Yes,
So
sorry for,
that's okay. So
Okay, so that means is if we only do those 2, that there's gonna be some money left over then?
You don't.
No.
Potentially, but we are going to have to
No,
get
I
pricing
said
from
potentially.
contractors that's going to have to be updated for when this was originally passed. That's the one thing is,
Yeah.
the pricing is several months old now,
Yeah.
like probably 6 months to a year old,
I mean, the screw pump could take all 850,000. We don't know yet because it needs.
depending on how many of them we do, yes.
Yes, right.
well, it does say that B was already authorized previously, so it's part of the
They're
original
just
thing,
looking,
so-
right,
Yep.
they're looking for us just to make sure that we're okay with authorizing the
Okay.
additional.
Right.
funds.
Spend it.
No, that's what we want to know.
Saves, yeah.
We would recommend you spend it, we just want verification with that.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend that we do it. I mean, it's,
we can
it's gonna
fine-tune it
gonna
to
create
where
a
it's
savings down within a near future by
Yeah.
doing it, so, yeah.
And when you decide which ones, that will come to us in the form of a change order for approval?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
We'll probably even have some discussion before then when we're determined which ones we want to get the change order pricing on. Probably just to kind of, so you're not caught on, okay, we didn't hear anything, then now we've got this change order in front of us. We may actually come back before we obtain the change order and say, these are the system components we're going to get the pricing on. Just hopefully make it easier where it's kind of a couple steps approach where it isn't just all, okay, here we go.
Okay, thank you.
Now on that, just for one other item, I'm assuming you want Wendell to do the design and the implementation with EFC to get you this funding. Like, we need to provide a design and EFC will approve that goes hand in hand with the improvements, and that is included in the budget. Like, that's in there too, that's accounted for. So I'm just confirming you want to do that versus doing it. I don't know if there's really a way to do it yourselves, because you need obviously a licensed engineer to do the design and those things. So just want you to understand there'll be a Wendell proposal to do the design for this that's factored into that amount already.
Well, they're already doing the project, so.
Right. So this is what you to understand.
Right.
Okay, everybody seems to be in agreement with that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for the gentleman from Wendell here? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you. And sorry, it's hard to go over some of this stuff sometimes on Zoom. It's just, I apologize, it's just hard to go over it.
Brian, I have one more kind of trivial question. When did that grant information come out for the water infrastructure improvement?
The water infrastructure improvement, Kathy Holko released it, I believe, on 9/28. So the window is super tight.
Yep.
And the thing that is kind of troubling is these do require bond resolutions or resolutions from the board that you have funding in place from another source. In order to do that in less than 60 days seems very difficult to do. It's just the time you get to board cycles and have to discuss it. If you weren't already planning to do this and weren't just sitting there waiting, you're really behind the 8 ball, to be honest. I mean, it's how the state decided to do it, but it would have been nice to be a 3 to 4 month process, I would think, to be more fair to everyone. But I guess that's the rules that you can play for giving out the grant and the money.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
You too, take care.
Okay, we'll go over resolutions to be considered for the next regular board meeting on October 18th, 2021. Delinquent tax roll for the county. Alyssa, can you explain anything on that?
It's just the tax bills that we didn't collect. We have to send the delinquent ones back to the county, and that total is actually $174,370.37.
Say that again, Louis? I'm sorry.
$174,370.37.
What's that, what percentage is that the whole, do you know?
Actually, it's much better than last
Yes,
year.
I was gonna say, that's
It's a
much
lot better
better,
than
yeah.
last year's.
Yeah.
Probably 1% or so.
But this is what the county makes us whole on. This is.
Yes, they do.
That's
Yes.
right. That's what I mean.
But I'm just, in this time,
Just
and I'm
wondering.
glad that, I mean, it sounds like
A
the
small
majority
amount.
of, yeah, it sounds really small. That comparison.
It's not small, but
It's not
yeah.
small.
Well, it's
It's
smaller,
last year.
it's small, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that when I was collecting county, it was always over $1 million that was delinquent, so.
About 5%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. And the abstracts, 589 to 596. And all that information, Ann, is kept down below for Alyssa or you.
It's in a binder in my office.
Okay. Budget transfer, Alyssa, is that my request?
Yes.
And that is, I don't know exactly how much you're going to transfer, but it's in my budget line. I wanted to utilize some of my travel money to purchase plaques for trustee Pecos, to go one on a bench and one a plaque to go on the lower pavilion at Russell Joy Park to dedicate that pavilion in honor of trustee Pecos, and a plaque to go up into the courtroom to honor Judge David Prince and to dedicate that courtroom to him. And I just wanted to transfer some, I don't know if it's a total amount you need to transfer.
$900. I believe.
$900, yep. So that's the information behind that, and it comes out of my travel line to go into my
Supply line.
supply line. Municipal solutions, wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plant, and general consulting contract must be.
Yes.
There was some confusion on that.
Yes, the resolution that we did previously was not adequate for the EFC projects. So Ann and I had a conference call with Municipal Solutions the other day, and they gave us some of the details. You have notes, sorry.
That's okay. Each of those we can't roll it all into one. The EFC wants each contract specific to the project. So and you guys were given these copies of these in your packet. These are contracts from, February and March. So Alyssa and I were thinking, since the budget is already including the wastewater treatment and the water treatment plant.
The project,
The
yeah, the
project is
projects
already-
already include the Municipal Solutions dollar amounts in those.
That we just go ahead and sign those two and until they're finished.
So you're gonna need a separate resolution for the wastewater treatment plant and water treatment plant, or general consulting and water treatment plant?
All three.
All three?
Yes.
And so the water treatment plant project, which is, it's gotta be, I thought we were very close to completion.
Mhm.
And that contract will end upon completion of that project?
Correct.
Do we have a date in which that may happen?
Chris won't sign off on it until we get everything.
Right.
But,
Yeah,
I mean,
thankfully.
what are we paying them for if the project is done?
We don't pay them unless they do something for
Right.
it, so really it doesn't hurt us at all
I guess my
to,
question is, what could they do for us or need to do for us as we end this project?
There's a few things that need to be finished up there that aren't.
I'm talking about municipal solutions.
You're
What
correct.
would
You're
they
just
do for
retaining-
us?
You're just retaining their services.
right.
It's not
As
costing us
far as
anything,
for
you're just
EFC
retaining.
purposes, because
Yeah.
of the MWBEs, I think is that what it was?
Yeah.
Or MSRB reports.
Okay.
They're supposed to
When they're
sign
done.
off on those, so,
Okay. And I see that the water treatment, the wastewater treatment, there are a couple of things left.
Right.
That need to be done, especially with this, what we did tonight. But the third thing is, services by, what was that?
Consulting, moving
Consulting.
forward.
Right.
You've talked about bringing it down.
oh, I would suggest, we went for 20,000 across the board. I would suggest reducing that maybe to 3,000,
For consulting.
yeah,
Yes,
just to have a max number.
right.
We're not using them very frequently for anything general.
That would be moving forward.
Yes.
Right.
To still have them if we need something, but,
So that's
It's-
up to the dollar amount we're putting into the budget to retain them for their services if needed.
We've put 20 into it, right?
Right.
Into the
Currently.
budget.
So
Right.
currently,
That would
yeah,
be for the next budget.
it would be for the next budget, yeah.
Well,
But
but
we
we're
reduce
saying
it
that
now.
the consulting thing would go to an hourly rather than the 20,000. We'd
Right.
go to an hourly rate. And the hour, what was the hourly rate?
148, did it say?
I think that's what it
And
was
so the
previously, yeah.
contract then, even though it's budgeted, the contract would read not to exceed
Right.
$3,000 instead of $20,000.
What's,
And the reason for that is that Erlissa has been able to do and has learned to do and has taken classes to do
but it,
some of the things that we have been paying municipal solutions to do. So our consultant fees would drop significantly
not if we're
with
not-
multiple solutions,
not if-
municipal solutions, because we would not need to rely on them for a lot of the things that we've had to rely on them before.
not if, it's not gonna change the cost if we're gonna be utilizing hourly. If your cap is 3,000 or your cap is 10 or 20,000, if they're gonna be operating hourly, that doesn't change how much we're gonna be billed. It's just that, if we don't utilize them, we're not gonna go over 3,000.
We're just talking about the contract though, Jim, instead of 20,000,
but we've
that's what they
already-
were questioning. Instead of 20,000,
But we've
a
already-
max, up to 20,000, Erlissa's recommending that we just go up to
So
3,000.
we've already done the resolution to 20,000.
We'll have to redo
But why?
these resolutions because the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant
Oh,
have to
okay,
be
so-
separated
oh, I
out of
see.
there.
So you want to do essentially 1,000 apiece?
No,
No.
3,000 for general consulting, and then the dollar amounts for the wastewater and the water treatment plant are already included in those projects. So those amounts are actually on these contracts.
contract.
One resolution.
Yeah,
We have
three
to-
separate
did,
budgets.
yeah, we did
three
one.
separate ones.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's all.
That's fine.
So the only adjusted one is the
Right.
is the
The
consulting.
only adjusted
Yeah.
one is
Right.
consultant.
Yeah.
That, right, that, okay,
Yeah,
that's,
that's it.
So
That's
we're gonna
clear.
sign these and send them back.
Yes, at the adjusted amount for consulting,
Okay.
yeah.
Or-
Has,
well,
We'll
no,
have to pass
no.
the
You have to
resolution
pass-
too on Monday.
Yeah, you have to the resolution,
That's,
yeah.
that's what I,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't do it until.
and has this been discussed with municipal solutions as well?
yes.
We actually talked to
Oh,
them,
okay.
what,
So they're
Thursday,
on-
Wednesday
they're
or
on the same
Thursday?
page as
Yes,
us
they are.
before we,
Yes.
okay, move forward, thank you.
Okay, as long as they know what they're getting into.
Or not, or whatever,
Or not,
yes, as
yeah.
long as they understand the terms of the new
Right.
contracts moving forward. All right, thank you. Lake Shore Paving Change Order Number 4. Any questions, any comments?
Scott, are you on?
Right.
I don't think you're all,
No, he's not.
I can send them a link if you want.
No, it's all right. The only thing I find this curious because if you'll remember, the first week that this project started, Scott said to us, the levels are not the same, and they're going to have to mill down
Right.
considerably more in order to make things work out with the drainage and the curb setting and everything else. This is that very thing that he said was going to have to be done. So at 21,900, I understand the change order thing, but one thing that I have issue with is contingency budgets are created for unexpected fines and unexpected, problems that come up. And we seem to be spending our contingency budgets on mistakes and miscalculations, and not necessarily things that we're surprised or that we found, we ran into an issue or we hit a pipe or those are the things contingency budgets were created for. And in all the projects that I've seen in the last 2 years, we spend the majority of our contingency budgets on mistakes that are made by the engineers or something that has gone, that could have been prevented.
Do you have proof that this is a mistake made by the engineer? I mean, you're saying
I do
this.
believe, and I think that Scott pointed that out the first week that the project started, that
Okay.
it wasn't calculated correctly. Do I want to fight that? No. But what I'm saying is I think that going forward, we need to be very careful with the we should be very aware of the contingency budgets because they seem to have gone from covering unexpected costs to covering mistakes and miscalculations. And I think that that's unfortunate. And I think it's an expenditure that we get caught up in, and it's a problem.
So is this an extra amount to mill further down?
Yes.
Okay, because that milling of that street was one of the alternates of either the overpass
Right.
monument thing, or
Right.
that, and the board
Right.
chose to
Right.
to mill
And
that
it wasn't calculated correctly, the
Okay.
depth of it. So we have to mill
farther down.
farther down.
Well,
And that's
actually-
what I'm saying, is that it's not like we ran into something. It was a miscalculation. So,
What actually may happen here is taking out the brick actually in
Yeah.
these areas instead of, I mean, you can only mill down the blacktop, and the
Right.
blacktop only goes down maybe 6 inches. And if it has to go below that, if they're just removing the bricks and probably putting a sub-base down there.
That's what
Could
it
be.
says.
Yeah.
You're adding profile
Well, I
milling.
got here to talk about it's difficult, because it might not be a mistake. It might be one of those things, where sometimes the contractor says, well, we think it's gonna be this, but once we get into it, it might be worse.
well, that's what contingency is always about,
Right,
but
well,
like
that
I
would be
said,
the contingency.
I'm saying that they had to know there were bricks under the street. And they had to know that that particular milling, depth of the road in comparison to the curb.
That they
wasn't
were
going-
installing, right.
Wasn't gonna work out. I mean, our DPW department head looked at it and went, no, this
Yeah.
is wrong.
Yeah,
Well, obviously,
So-
when the curbs and the road were
Street's
put in,
higher
the
than the
road
curb.
was put in with the brick
Yeah.
and the curb at the same time, and you had the proper curb height with the brick.
Right.
So any additional blacktop was way
Right.
and above what was supposed to be
Right.
the elevation of the roadway. Actually, the brick road is actually the proper elevation
Right.
of the road.
Yeah, and this isn't even the blacktop, this is the milling work that needs to be done. So, that's just my concern about the contingency budgets that we seem to be spending on, that's all. But I think it has to be done, so I would imagine we have to approve this.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I believe we went over, unless, Sean, this is something different, wastewater treatment plant phase 2,
It's the same thing.
the same thing? Okay. So we went over that list already. New business.
Okay,
Oh,
before we get to new business, is everybody sure? You got nothing else to talk about with resolutions? So in a week from tonight, we can just pass the things,
Well, there will be
or vote on
other,
them, rather.
Good
there will
luck.
be other resolutions on
There will
that.
be other,
And
and,
other questions may pop up.
yeah.
But with these resolutions, are there any other, is there any more discussion or questions or comments on these resolutions this evening? Okay, so at least 6 out of the however many we have should fairly straightforward.
Well,
New business, broadband survey, New York State Department of Public Service. Everybody read that there at a,
The state wants this on our website and also for us to talk about it at a meeting. have a little comment about it, just so the public knows. That's the gist of this letter.
And will we do that at the next meeting, I assume? Or does it matter? Did they want us to actually just read the statement that they provided here, I assume?
It'll be on the website too.
They want it on the
We want
website.
the board to review it, and then we'll put it on the
Okay.
website.
All right. Well, I guess we just, we can discuss that tonight. We looked at it. If there's any discussion, great. If not, we're going to put it on our website and we'll move forward. How's that?
Well, there's also, I think we're putting a survey on the website that we would like customers to fill out.
Yes, the web link for the online
Oh,
survey.
the link, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a link, it's a link to the
I
survey.
think the survey should, they say will take 10 minutes, so they can get a sense of what kind of internet speeds we have in the area.
So, public, if you're listening here tonight, this will be on our website. There'll be a link to fill out a survey, and please do. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, Lakeshore Paving quote for paving of Water Street parking lot if contingency budget allows.
I was really hoping Scott would be on here
I
tonight.
just texted him, see if he wanted to chime in,
Yeah.
I'll give him a link.
I didn't realize it was that bad a shape.
Well, the west parking lot, I think, is the worst one, and that because the work is being done over there and there were questions about parking that were brought up, Scott went over and looked at the back parking lot and said to Lake Shore Paving, if we have contingency, if we have money left, what would it cost us to resurface this parking lot? Because it seems.
You're talking about the east or the west municipal parking lot,
Correct.
not the water.
It says,
here,
it
the
says
water-
Water Street, parking
Read the
lot.
parentheses.
If contingency budget allows.
All
Village
right,
lot
that Water
be-
Street may have been we need to, I'm pretty sure it was
It
behind.
says Water
It says-
Street on
yeah,
the
the
Lake
project
Shore
name, Water
paving
Street.
thing.
Yeah, but
Oh.
I just read something
It's
else.
between Water Street and Canada Way Street. That's what it says. The parking lot between Water and
Between Water
Canada
and
Way.
Canada Way Street.
Lake Shore Paving wasn't familiar,
Village
but
lot
between Water and
Street
Canada Way.
Canada Way
So
Street.
it's east-west parking lot.
So it's
So it's the
west,
west
so
parking
it's
lot.
west
It's the west
parking
parking
lot.
lot.
So it's,
Yeah.
But the other thing, before we get too excited about this, you know, we still have to clear it with the state.
Yes.
Because this funding may not
Be
be part of the Main Street program that we applied for. This is part of the park improvement projects. Now, one of the other things is, if we had some contingency money left over, I talked to Joy about it, we may be able to utilize some of those funds to refurbish the gazebo. That is part of the park project. So again, if we get the opportunity to repave our parking lot, we'll blow it and use it. If there's money left over, we can utilize some of those funds to refurbish our gazebo.
And
Because that
they
is still part of our,
They were approaching it, and Travis was working with Scott. So because of the lost parking spaces in the project, that they would look at the west parking lot to be able to use it in contingency.
it was kind of the selling point.
It was. And it makes as much sense to me as using the leftover money from the Opera House in the park. So-
when you say lost parking,
There were a couple lost parking
we
spots.
weren't, I thought we weren't supposed to have any lost parking.
There are a couple.
because of
Three, I
the
think.
handicap
Yeah.
And the crosswalk,
crosswalks, they unfortunately
I think we lost two.
lost that too.
Plus, we want to gain some additional parking back there and striping it properly and, you know, getting the layout. I mean, once you pave it, then you can kind of reconfigure it and get more.
I mean,
more
if
parking.
they could, if they do that right, they could actually help then add some.
Increased parking.
Yes.
Increased parking, if they actually use it for doing that.
Yes.
I think that'd be beneficial. I think we're gonna end up having, if we lose any parking spaces, we have to have a resolution to.
Decrease those
to decrease those numbers of spaces.
Well,
Because
and
they're-
yeah,
they're-
But again, this is
We'll
just,
find those
we're
out,
gonna
yeah.
try to see if we can get the money for this. If we can't, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, the other discussion was the parking meters.
Right.
So that the parking meters were gonna go in and the
Yeah.
west parking lot could be used without parking meters and, you know, so that there
Well,
was,
Which, a little bit of lost revenue over a period of time, but this would be more beneficial, I think, overall in the big scheme.
I think so too.
Getting that parking lot done, because it's so desperately needing it.
So
Again, if it fits within the
we'll just wait and see if
parameters
it
of the
can
grant.
be approved
Right,
and how much is left, who knows?
right.
But that's the quote, nonetheless, to do
That's the
that.
quote.
Gotcha.
Okay, electrical inspectors appointed. Chuck would like to have Michael Gleason added to the electrical inspectors list. Any comments or any questions or?
So that just normally comes from the recommendation of our building inspector?
Yep.
As long as he pass all the qualifications, he'll make recommendations, and then we approve it, and then it goes on our website as an approved vendor, correct?
Well, he's an inspector.
Inspector, not
Yeah.
vendor.
Inspector.
Yeah.
Okay,
That requires a resolution, right?
Yes.
yes.
So that's going up to the resolution list, Scott.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on that?
Yes, I would.
appointment?
Added to the list.
I just have one new thing. I spoke to Chuck LaBarbera before the meeting just briefly. Anthony Mancuso from Mancuso Service Station would like to donate a vehicle to the village to maybe possibly replace the code enforcement vehicle if Chuck deems that the new vehicle would work. It would be at no cost to the village. He'd like to donate it. And Chuck tomorrow he's going over to Mancuso's to just take a quick look and see if that would be something that would work for him. So.
That's certainly generous and
Yeah.
welcome
So.
and nice.
It's apparently a 2014 vehicle. I don't know the total exacts on it. He briefly mentioned a couple things about it, but I don't know if that would, it would be up to Chuck to see if that would fit his needs.
Because the one they have is getting,
It's really old.
yeah, it's getting pretty,
It's extremely old.
so that would be awfully nice if you make Usos.
So we would access that old one, right?
Do whatever.
Auction it off.
Right. Yeah, right.
Or take it to the bowl.
Just auction it off, you'd be
Yeah,
surprised.
I mean, it's still,
Throw it on our
it's still
auction site.
driving, it's somebody might,
Give it to Park and Rec.
Maybe Anthony wants to.
She laughs.
Okay. Is there any other new business brought forth by any of the trustees?
I
Needs
just,
a trailer.
I wanted to, I had some questions in regard to, and here's some new business. Canvas letters for water treatment operator trainee have gone out. So we'll be starting those sometime in the near future, as soon as the canvas lists come back. And the police chief's application deadline is Friday. And we're interviewing Saturday for the fire chief. So we, just to keep you up on personnel there.
Did you receive any applications then for the police chief position? Do you know?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we've received up to 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
I think that's probably all that's new right now.
Any other new business by any other trustee? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Baggett Laredo Baggett Chicken Barbecue, October 23rd, 2021.
I called her on the 4th of October and told her our concerns about the project not being finished by that date. And she was wondering if she could have the barbecue behind their business.
Municipal lot.
Parking lot?
So we have to
they have
amend
their,
the
they have,
resolution, but,
well, they have their own area.
right,
Their
she was
own
just
area.
gonna, yeah. She was
Um,
thinking about doing it back there because,
That's on private property,
Oh,
commercial.
Yeah, we have to find out if they're wanting to do it on their own property or on a municipal lot.
Except it's, usually those grills are big.
Yeah, but why can't we do
Coming
Water
down
Street?
there, So there's no.
Can they use Water Street location? Is the farmer's market moved out by then? Are they on their way
That
up
was
to?
another question I had. When
I'll
did they
have to
move
find
to?
out. I'll
to the
ask, I'll
Masonic
call
Lodge?
tomorrow.
Farmers market was either
That's a
this
good idea.
Saturday or next
Yeah,
Saturday.
because they were
will be the
going back
last-
soon.
Will be the last
I
time.
think there's
Okay.
one
One
more.
more.
I mean, the Water Street location might be available, and then if they had a drive-through, they could set it up pretty simple down there.
Right.
But either way, I mean, I don't know what the harm would be if they wanted to do it on their own I mean, they have a good
It's
sized
the
lot.
drive-through type, Jim. If you come off of one, you know what I mean? It'd give them a little more of a flow pattern if they were in like a bigger municipal lot.
Well, I'm not debating the other lot, if that's available. What I'm saying is, give them something that's big and available. If this is utilized down here or the other place. But if they aren't available, I mean, I don't know why it would be too much of a problem. I mean, Fred's blocks things off and utilizes things. And
We had a
You know.
tailgate party there.
Right,
Stop that.
so if, I don't know why it'd be any issue
I mean, it-
allowing him to do that,
Whatever would be
Fundraiser.
most
It's a
convenient
fundraiser.
and effective.
Give them some
I'm
options.
going to talk to her tomorrow.
Because I think if you drove in Water Street and they dropped them off right there in the parking lot and drove out Canada Way, there's your,
Well, again,
Right,
it's
right.
just a flow,
There's your loop.
it's just a
it's a
flow
loop, it's
pattern.
a nice loop, yeah.
So either way, if you just,
But we're gonna have a resolution.
have a
about it.
resolution.
Yeah.
yep. So they have a couple
Yeah,
options
And
to
if they,
consider.
if they want to use our municipal lot, then they're gonna need a certificate of insurance.
Right.
Okay, next, old business, Candy extension request. There's gotta be some comments and questions on this.
This is what confused me. Why are they asking for an extension? That this extension went to December, aren't they
They,
done?
they wanted the last extension only had gone to, was it July, I think?
Right, the new one goes to December.
And he wants one to December because he wants to get the extension, so he doesn't have to pay any, they don't have to pay any penalties associated with,
Going over the.
going over
contract.
the contract deadline.
Has anyone talked to him?
I have not.
Anybody? I just can't see why we would extend it. The project is 99.5% done.
And they, when they spoke to us, they said, originally said that they would be completed by that contract the last extension deadline, and they went well beyond it. But, I mean, so I don't know why we'd be approving something to December is correct. That seems kind of,
Let me get this.
unless they anticipate more problems. Because it's not 100% done yet. So, I don't know. I'm not in fan of extending anything.
And then either.
Well, I guess that would be a discussion then maybe Chris would have with Dick Roberts and,
Maybe our attorney.
Yeah,
Or
maybe our
attorney.
attorney, yeah.
I have the old letter, the one that for the extension to October.
yeah, that's what we got.
Right, but in that extension request, which we approved that one, right?
We didn't, no, we didn't
Didn't
approve that one either.
That's
No.
the one, yeah.
No, we didn't approve the one to October, we had
Only
only.
approved to July.
Only to July. We never approved the one, we discussed it because when they were, that was, who was it, I think it was you, that, trustee Fritz actually brought up that, well, they were here, and, you know, they did one, they didn't need an extension.
I'm just wondering, of the
So we
list
didn't approve
of,
it.
they gave us a list of projects that had to be completed, and that's why they wanted the extension.
Right.
I'm just wondering which of these have actually been completed and what's left to do.
Right.
Have to go over with Chris.
Is Chris on?
No.
Yes, he just came in.
Chris, are you on, sir?
Or maybe Scott.
Chris Surma, are you on with us tonight?
It's like a seance.
No. Okay, I believe the iPhone would be Scott.
Yes.
Maybe we should all hold hands.
Yeah, okay, Chris is not on
we burn
tonight, so. We would need the information from Chris to see why they would still need an extension for what parts of the project that are not complete, and, you know, whether he thinks that he should get an extension or not, I guess at this point would be maybe a recommendation from Chris.
That's under old business?
Yeah, and then like I said, I'm just
Yeah, well-
curious of all the things on that list, what's actually been.
Well,
finished
Chris
off.
wasn't willing to sign off because
Right.
there were still some things that needed to be corrected, I thought.
Right,
That
that's
weren't
correct.
working
Yeah,
correctly.
not
So-
necessarily not done, but
Right,
Right.
right.
I mean, the window hasn't even been put back in yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been waiting for the window to be put in for the past 2
Right.
weeks.
So this has to be pushed to the next workshop?
I don't think we should extend it, period. Just get the work done and we'll make a deal with them about
penalties.
the fines that are,
Yeah, what it's
because they
gonna
get
cost to
fined for
close.
every day they're over.
Right.
We don't pay anything until we can settle on a price. And, how much they owe us, how much we owe them.
I know Charlie and I have been working on the other portion with the stainless steel ring too, so.
Charlie, are you on this evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so would that be something that is under your purview to discuss with Candy, that the trustees feel the contract should not be extended at this point in time?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Does that sound?
But I do think whatever correspondence that we get sent to them also needs to include Chris's concerns. These are the things that, you know, we're not ready to sign off on because this, and this is either
Sure.
not working or not done.
Sure.
So, Charlie, can you get with Chris to see what's keeping him from signing things off? We know there are concerns and some things that
I
aren't
don't want to
working.
confuse you guys.
And
but-
can we include those in the
Candy's
correspondence?
just a contract.
We can actually review that.
Okay.
And should I work with,
Chris
with
Surma.
Roger or from the board? Who?
Are they the GC or?
Roger's on water and so am I, but Roger can do it. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, Roger just brought up a question here, a point. I mean, is Candy the GC? I mean, that's the one responsible, not the engineering firm for the,
Right, that's what I'm saying, we need to write the Candy.
Candy.
He needs to
Both.
contact
I mean,
Candy.
because-
Yeah.
And the date of this letter was July,
Yes,
so
right,
follow up with them.
That's true.
yeah. And with Chris as to what's not working, so that there's
Correct.
some correspondence.
So the issue may
paper
not be
trail.
that we held up the project, the engineers held up the project.
Well, there's.
after that discussion with them at that
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
Thanks,
not,
Charlie.
but it's not the engineers that's asking for the extension.
It's the
it's the
contractor,
contractor. So,
correct.
so, but
Oh, okay.
it's all together there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Is there any other old business that needs to be brought forth by the
I had a
trustees?
question while we're on the, go ahead, Scott.
Well, I just have one, and I guess this is where it goes, but I want to make sure that tomorrow for our public meeting, in anticipation of, I suspect, a rather large number of speakers, that we adhere to our 3-minute rule for the workshop, for the meeting. And I did some research and found that we're right in line with a number of cities, towns, and villages in Chautauqua County. 3 minutes seems to be pretty much the standard.
Okay. Anything else? Trustee Goshaw.
I had a question about Jerry Falco now, with this project being over, the agreement we had with Jerry Falco was that he was done when the project was done.
Right.
And so, with the project really not moving forward much except for some corrections, is he done?
You and I had this conversation, you kind of agreed he's done.
We're not paying
So
them.
we need to notify him that he's done.
Yeah, if you need to send a formal letter, sure.
I just think
We'll
we
get it
need to
from Chris.
document, we just
Yeah.
need to
We'll get it with
document.
Chris and
Okay.
cut them off.
What do we know,
Yes.
does that have to have a resolution?
No,
No.
no, the resolution to hire. not-
What do we know about the moving of the clock? Was there any, I was confused, was it part of this project, is it not part of this project?
Part of a state DOT project, and I haven't heard anything
Have we
from the
heard
state.
anything about it?
And I don't know if Scott has heard anything from the state.
That'd be a Scott question.
It does move 60 times every hour.
Stop it, I'm talking about the big clock. And that the department head and contract agreement is going to be beginning discussions, just so everybody's aware of that, so. That's the last of the contracts to begin, to be done, so.
When was that contract up, in June or July?
Yes, May 31st, I think, or something like that. Thank you, that's all I have. Oh, Kayla, getting ready for Halloween, did you need to?
Yes, so I went around yesterday to the local businesses, so if people are watching, I didn't catch you, I'll go back again this coming week. There's a lot of people who have volunteered to bring their vehicle for the trunk or treat. And right now I have 4 different, between like dance groups and the band from Fredonia, they will be performing at Russell Joy Park coming up. I've contacted Top 10 Walmart for donations for cider and donuts, and I'm excited.
Yeah, great.
And that activity, that is scheduled for Saturday,
October 30th, 1 to 4.
1 to 4.
Yep, Upper Pavilion, at Russell Joy.
Are we putting that in the paper as well? Is there some?
Yes, I have a write-up that I'll send over to the Observer as well.
Great. Thank you, great. And where are we on the improvements? I know that you walked around with
So
Scott.
I'm
and-
going to walk around with Scott on Thursday. He helped me out with the light timers, for the pickleball courts, tennis courts, so that was all taken care of. And he fixed the one timer on the light.
The timer got
spots,
fixed,
yeah.
yes.
So that's all set, and yeah, we're gonna walk around on Thursday.
Great, thank you.
Anything more on the problems with the park there, the things that were stolen and destroyed?
There has not been any more, knock on wood.
I know that we talked to the chief and they were increasing
Yeah.
surveillance in the park and so hopefully, and I think when budget time comes, we were going to replace some of those surveillance cameras and.
Yeah, and when I was down there playing around with the timers, because it was dark out at that time, to the lower pavilion, there's a sensor light that does come on, but it didn't come on when I got out of the car. So that's something else I want to look at as well.
Okay.
So just some new lighting down there.
Add to the list. Yep.
Yes.
Sounds good. Is there any other old business we need to bring up? Going once, going twice? All right.
Do we need executive session?
No? Awesome. Well, I guess that's it, folks. Thank you.
Right.
It's a wrap.
An hour.